Expeditions Viking is a turn-based historical RPG, and we balance between strategy and RPG more heavily on the RPG side. And so, what it is really about, premise-wise, is that you, as the player, get to create your own character, who is the new chieftain of a Viking village. And you've inherited from your father, who's let the village go into a bit of disarray. And so you are basically charged with elevating it from its meager position to something a little bit more, long-lasting. So you initially gather your Huskarls, they're called, which your party followers, your most trusted allies. You gather them from within your village and from the surrounding area by going on a series of basic quests early in the game, and we divide the game up into two sort of campaigns. The first is the Nordic campaign and the Scandinavian campaign, where you're working inside the Northlands, and that's done to establish the world for you as a player and let you know where you stand with the other villagers, with your friends, allies, and with your enemies, and get to know who the goods and who the bads are. So the game balances itself out between, I guess, maybe three major mechanics. There's the conversation system, where a lot of you have dialogue between you and the other characters, and that's where you make a lot of your key decisions in the game, right? So choices that you make inside of that dialogue system will reflect or have consequences throughout the game, either immediate consequences or consequences later on down the road, because both your party members, but also people, NPCs, other enemies or potential enemies, may judge you based on the decisions that you make inside the conversation system. It also gives you the opportunity inside of those systems to potentially diffuse conflict. So you can avoid battle in many situations by negotiation and by cleverness, but you need to also spec your character for that, right? So if you create a fighting berserker or a strong-willed warrior, your sense, which is the ability stat that helps you negotiate and convince people, is often quite low. And then you're going to have a hard time, using words when what you really want is to use your weapons, right? And so that's the first sort of main way that we let you sort of make choices in the game. The second, of course, is the combat system, which is a turn-based, hex-based combat system. And this is something I think a lot of people who are used to traditional pen and paper RPGs will be fairly comfortable with as they get used to it. There is attacks of opportunity, flanking bonuses, and ranged and melee combat. And then the final way that you sort of make your choices in the game is through the overworld map, through the campaign maps, where you are going to be moving between areas of interest and then having to manage your resources during the travels. Because it is an expeditions title, what that really means for us is that it's not just an RPG, it's about going out on these adventures. And when you are out on these adventures, much of the environment is hostile, and that can mean anything from diseases, sickness, that sort of stuff. You have to end up dealing with your party management, right? So there's the elements of exhaustion, but also to stave off exhaustion, you can camp. And during camping situations, This is another thing that I think traditional RPG players will be comfortable with, is that we have a watch system. So you set up a watch order, and you also set up various actions and activities inside the camp. So crafting happens there, medicine, both medicine making and treatments or triage happen in that space. Food, hunting. As well as cooking, and then of course camp management as far as cleanup. You also need to sort of clean your campsites, because if you don't, there's always a possibility that brigands might stumble across it and then set traps for you in the future if you go back and reuse a campsite more than once. The Expedition series is really, it's a historical based series. So what we try to do is we try to take a time in history where we know that that people went on these grand adventures, whether they be conquest oriented or raiding or for wealth and glory, that sort of thing. And we want to put players into that historical period and then let them make their own choices. So historical accuracy is something of a challenge when we're doing a Viking game. What we like to do is we like to call it historical authenticity often in this framework, because what we've used is a lot of archaeological information, but that predominantly reflects on personal character, right? So the way that the Vikings dressed, the types of actions and skills and trades that they participated in, the architecture of their homesteads and things like that. Those are all things that we focus very heavily on trying to maintain the archaeological perspective on. You will meet characters from history inside of the game, but one of the issues with trying to be purely accurate when it comes to Vikings is that they didn't write a lot of things down, right? Like their language was mostly verbal, and when they wrote things down, they did it in runes carved into stone. So a lot of it is very brief. Brevity is key when you're chiseling into rock, I think. So right now the game is in its alpha stage, and what our target is to have it released this year, 2016, in the fall. So that's Q3 2016. And so people can get more access to it by joining us on our newsletter. They can sign up at our website, that's expeditionseries.com, or they can follow us on Twitter at Expeditions Game, and we also have a Facebook page for the Expedition series as well.
Your father was a great warrior and a good husband, but he was not a strong chieftain to his clan. As he travels to join his brothers in the halls of Valhalla, you must take his place. Our clan is beset by petty squabbles. Some amongst our people would contest your claim to leadership, as they sought discord our neighbors' plot against us. Gather your most trusted clansmen. Together you will face dangers which none can predict. You will be challenged on your leadership, your resolve, your wisdom. Build a ship and take your housecarls across the sea. Power and strength for our clan must be sought outside the Norselands. If you show yourself to be bold, the gods will follow you into battle. Your legacy will live for 1,000 years beyond your time. Our clan must prevail.